Joining us now to put this into some perspective and context, John Solomon, the editor-in-chief of Just the News, best-selling author, and great American. John, let's turn to Ratcliffe's remarks. This is an unusual departure, and to take on, again, the intelligence agency heads who didn't want this analysis and this assessment out in the public. Your reaction to what Director Ratcliffe has just done?
Isn't it hysterical that 4 years ago, the Obama administration rushed out an intelligence assessment saying that Russia tried to help Donald Trump win the election, something we now know has been called into question by large amounts of evidence, and the CIA's former station chief in Moscow, Dan Hoffman, who's one of the most respected Russia experts. That's been called into question. They had no problem rushing that out anyways to harm the beginning of the Trump presidency. And at the end of the Trump presidency, they're unwilling to allow the intelligence community to make an assessment that try to intervene in this election. So it took John Ratcliffe and his courage and his ability to put this out separate of the intelligence analysts and the agencies that really have shown a double standard. They rushed it out under the end of Obama, and they're trying to slow walk it out at the end of Donald Trump. Anyone who says that politics hasn't begun to infect our intelligence agencies hasn't been watching closely.
They've been watching closely, and they have to be, I would have to say, completely avoiding media, left-wing media principally, for the past 4 years. This is the most politicized intelligence, the most politicized that the intelligence agencies have ever been. It is outrageous, and that this president and the Republican Party had to put up with it. It's a continuation of the Obama era, and it is looking awfully bad. Unfortunately, we're also watching the FBI stop the White House as the president has vowed to release Obamagate documents that he has declassified, and they're trying to run out the clock over the next, little less than 48 hours.
Yeah. Well, I have a high degree of confidence based on the reporting I've done today that the declassification is not only done, but the documents are being prepared. And sometime between tonight and tomorrow midday, we'll see them. These are all the Justice Department and remaining Justice Department and FBI documents known to be of interest to the American public. There are two sets of documents I want to highlight, though, that I'm not sure are going to get out. One of those are the CIA intelligence documents. Devin Nunes wrote a remarkable report with his team in 2018 on failures on the last intelligence assessment, the one we just talked about, Russia allegedly trying to help Donald Trump, even though that evidence has been called into question. It's not clear that that's going to get released.
Well, to be clear, John, I'm sorry, just to clear that up just a bit. The assessment was that there was no basis for that assessment that Russia was, in fact, trying to help Donald Trump. Correct?
Yeah, not only that, there were intelligence analysts who disagreed with the assessment, and they were silenced. Again, getting to that idea of politics in our intelligence community, that would have been a great thing if we could gotten Devin Nunes' report out for the American people to see how dissenting voices were squelched by John Brennan.
And right now, Devin Nunes, as the chair of the intelligence community back in the day, the report prepared by his committee, and he can't get his hands on it to release it to the American people, nor to this point as the President of the United States. And very specifically, we have to explain that's because the CIA will not turn it over to anyone. They won't permit it, as I understand it, to even leave the gun box at the CIA.
Yeah, it's a travesty that this doesn't get out there so that we can make a better assessment of the things we need to fix in our intelligence community. A lot of great people do a lot of great work every day to keep us safe, but the Russia case exposed the sort of flaws that once in a generation we need to pause, stop, and fix, lest we become less insecure because of our ignorance to these issues. I think Gina Haspel, the CIA director, and all those others who are thwarting the release of that document are doing the public a great disservice, the American security infrastructure a great service. There was no sources and methods that couldn't have been protected. This information could be out there. The only reason it's not being released is because it protects the institutional reputation of the CIA. They're trying to hide their failures and the dissent within their own ranks. I don't think that's good for America.
I know it's not good for America. And I know this, that what they're really doing is violating the Constitution and disobeying the direct orders of the commander-in-chief. It's an outrage, and we are witnessing the deep state absolutely defying constitutional authority and telling everyone who's boss. And it's no less than that, John. Do you disagree?
No, you're right. No, I agree with you. Listen, there's another place I want to point out, because we only have 40 hours left to make a difference. At the State Department, there's a document. It's dated November 22nd, 2016. It's a remarkable document by George Kent, the guy with the bow tie, made himself famous, very important impeachment witness. The guy that was trying to tell Joe Biden he had a conflict of interest. Joe Biden wanted to talk to him. The guy who said he was worried that 2 bribes were paid while Hunter Biden was on the Burisma board. No one would listen to him then either. He wrote an email that sums up Joe Biden's sort of responsibility or failure of responsibility in Burisma, and that has been kept classified. It has no national security information whatsoever. It's a personal observation. If Mike Pompeo could do us one last favor in this country, to classify that document before you leave office at noon on Wednesday, the American people would benefit to see what career State Department officials really thought about Burisma and Joe Biden.
Yeah, we watched an impeachment hearing. George Kent figured prominently. We heard none of that in his testimony.
No.
You and I have talked about the difference between lies and omissions. That was an omission that rose to the level of a lie, as far as I'm concerned. And what we watched in that parade, in that impeachment theater fraud, was an absolute assault, again, on the Constitution, not just on this president, and everything that we expect of our State Department employees, our Foreign Service. They violated that day without reservation if they were appearing there before that committee.
You know, it's
Is there an
funny you use the
exception to
word
that?
assault. No, you know, it's funny you use the word assault, Lou, because during the height of that, I had a very good source inside the intelligence community that worked with the State Department. And he said, if you knew what was being withheld from the president's impeachment team, if you knew what was being withheld from the American people, you would consider this an assault on the common sense of the American people. The bureaucrats were trying to pull a fast one on the American people, not just the president, not just the Congress, on the entire American people. And here we are 2 years later, or a year and a half later from that. We still can't get the truth out at this last minute. I hope Mike Pompeo can find that document, get it to the rightful people who to release it. Senator Johnson is entitled to that document. The president's lawyers were entitled to that document. It would be one last act of transparency that would make us all feel better, I think.
Well, I don't think I'm going to feel very good about any of this for a very long time.
I agree.
I'm serious about that.
No, I know.
This is a government that is broken, and the people in it are unworthy of trust, who are leading it, whether they're elected officials or whether they are career employees of the federal government. This is an awful moment in American history. To Pompeo, your judgment about how helpful he has been in bringing transparency to the State Department.
You know, I think he's had a lot of foreign policy accomplishments. I don't think transparency from his bureaucracy has been one of them. He's done a great job working on many important issues. And I think if you watch his Twitter account the last week, he's done the best job of summarizing all the Trump foreign policy victories, which are many. But on the issue of transparency, he just wasn't willing to get down into the bureaucracy and fight with them and force them to give up the truth. Yeah.
I thought, John, we should put that on the record. As we await the release of those documents from the Trump White House, John Solomon will be on it throughout. The clock is winding down on this presidency and the opportunity to see those documents. John, thanks for being with us. John Solomon, Just the News Editor-in-Chief.